Hi, I'm Dr. Kyla, paediatric dietitian, fussy eating specialist, and mum of two. I'm the founder of the online Mealtimes memberships that help parents just like you experience a confident and guilt-free way of feeding children. I'm also a business owner, a hot cross bun lover, and my superpower is finding things that you cannot live without. In this podcast, I'm talking about feeding your family, along with a random selection of topics that tickle my fancy. Welcome to Mealtimes with Dr. Kyla.
Hello and welcome back to this bonus episode of the Mealtimes with Dr. Kyla podcast. I am here to debrief my most recent trip to Bali. So this is a podcast for families who are looking at accommodation options in Nusa Dua. If that is not you, if you have no interest in Bali, you don't care about the hotels, you're not interested in accommodation, in Bali, this is not the episode for you. So you can absolutely go and choose one of the past episodes I have recorded because today I'm talking about all the nitty-gritty details. This is the hotel review that I wanted to listen to before booking this holiday because I want to hear all of the details. Now, I have become a frequent Bali flyer. Our family have gone several times in the last few years because for us in Perth, it is just so easy. It is a 3-hour flight. It is so reasonably priced. It's warm. The food is beautiful, all of the things. Now, I have plenty of podcasts about Bali because I've been there so regularly. And in terms of all of the overall details, like the Bali belly, how to avoid it, what to pack, all those things are covered in the other podcasts that I've done. You can go back and listen to those. Today, I'm really talking about this trip, the July 2026, where I stayed, what I liked, what I hated, what I'd recommend. A very niche topic, but I've had a lot of requests actually on Instagram for a debrief of this. So here we are. Just for context, in the last couple of years, we have stayed at Melia before it was renovated and became Paradisus by Melia. We adored Melia. We loved it so much. That was before the renos as well. We didn't book it this year because of the timing. So they were due to reopen, I think it was December 2025. It was delayed perhaps until February 2026. So people who did have bookings had to find somewhere else in that time. We were going in July with family and we were just scared that something would happen or it wouldn't be ready or whatever. So we chose not to book there. Also, it hadn't been released on any kind of luxury escapes or package deal, and we were not going to pay full price for that. So we didn't book that, but I did go through it. We did go and visit friends who are staying there, and I will give you my thoughts towards the end of this episode. Last year, we stayed at Grand Mirage with some friends because it's been highly recommended on social media. We did not like it. I did a whole podcast about why I didn't like it last year, so you can go back and listen to that one if you want. But here's what I'm thinking about today's episode. I'm going to talk through each of the hotels and what we did and what we liked and what we didn't like. But you probably need to be clear on my biases before we start, what I'm big on and what I'm not. So what I'm looking for in a hotel is something that is all inclusive, especially when we're traveling with other people. Now that might not be your jam, that is totally fine, but for me, I do not want to be telling up how many thousands of rupiah we spent versus what you spent versus how many cocktails did we have. No, kids, you can't have another one of those because they're actually $8 or whatever it is. I do not want to think on these holidays. I do not want to be using Splitwise. I do not want to be looking at numbers or doing any calculations in my head. I want to get there and people just bring things to me and I don't have to think. I also want it to be fun for the kids. I definitely do not want a villa. I do not want to be just with my family in tropical paradise. I want to be with other families, either A, for them, the kids to play with, or B, to give us things to watch or talk about when we're there. So I'm looking for a hotel that has amenities where the kids can be entertained and have fun. But also it's nice for me. I found that Grand Mirage was very much directed at the kids and the adults were almost completely ignored. I wanted to have good food. I love Indonesian food, don't get me wrong, but I don't want to eat at the same place each night. And I do want to eat in the hotel. I don't want to be putting my kids in a taxi. I do not want to be organizing what time we have to leave the hotel. I want to walk out of my room and be at dinner within a couple of minutes. That absolutely is not for other people. I know that there are lots of families who like finding the local warongs, and you will hate this. So that is totally fine. We traveled, we were surprised by a couple of family friends who like to go out and eat at the local places and, eat Indonesian food, and that is great. But I do not want that on my holiday. I just want to show up to wherever we are, have it be a bit different each night and enjoy it. I do remember as a kid, like my parents rolling their eyes at other families who were like, "Oh, we found the best burgers in Bali." They were like, "Why do you come to Bali for burgers? Like, that's so ridiculous." But now that I'm an adult, and I totally agreed with that, like, I bought into that. I was so judgy. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, this Japanese restaurant is amazing. Look at this sashimi. I can't wait to eat it. So I've just become a stereotype, and I'm totally fine with that. I also want it to be relaxing, even though the kids are there. So, what I'm looking for is something where there's enough that we can do together and have fun, but also that they can kind of pot around in the water near the pool lounges, that there's enough space for them to do activities like, coloring in or whatever when they're having a bit of a rest. I want it to feel family, but still nice. So, they are the things that I am looking for. In terms of, I'll talk through kind of the specific parts of what we did. The first part of my trip was with my extended family. And so half of that holiday, or that part of the holiday, was with my nephews. They are on the go kids. So they are 4 and 7, and they are really busy, like to jump off the stages and fall into the pool and do a big bomby kind of kids. They're on the go all the time. So I just want to say that up front, because if you're listening to me and thinking, my kids are not sitting on the sun lounge just coloring, like I'm still considerate of that. And the second half of the trip was with a family with a toddler and two girls who do like to sit in color, but also have lots of energy too. So I'm really confident that what I'm talking about does apply to most families. So, first part of the trip was with my extended family and my parents at the Nusa Dua Beach Hotel. The second part, we stayed with friends at the Grand Hyatt, and both of those trips were booked through Luxury Escapes. They are not sponsored. However, Luxury Escapes, if you want to work with me, that would be a dream. The reason that we chose those, as I said, was because Amelia was maybe not available. I just looked to Nusa Dua, which I've talked about in the past, because it is clean, it is family friendly, it's not too far from the airport, and you just don't get sucked into going out all the time. When we did our first trip, we stayed part in Nusa Dua, part in Seminyak, and we were just like out for coffee, out for dinner, going to find somewhere for lunch, going to the markets, going to the shops, going to the whatever all the time. And it was not the relaxing vibe I was looking for. At this point in my life with young kids, busy work life, busy home life, I just want to like sit down, read my Kindle, have a cocktail, play with the kids in the pool, eat nice food, and just not like plan, shop, cook, clean, buy, organize, do anything. So that is why we chose Nusa Dua. So let's start with the Nusa Dua Beach Hotel. I have separated each of these into categories to kind of talk through, because I think that will be helpful. I was going to do the whole hotel and then compare them at the end. So let's see how it goes. Let's start with the food. Okay, so Nusa Dua Beach Hotel, this is our first stop. Loved the food. I thought the quality of the food was beautiful, really tasty. I did not love the food rules. So, as part of the Luxury Escapes all inclusive, you got 2 courses at lunch and dinner, which sounds like reasonable. You do not get any snacks. So essentially, that means if you want to have an ice cream, it has to be part of your 2 course meal, or you have to pay for it. And this kind of went on throughout the holiday, in that if you wanted to order like extra fries, you have to pay for the fries. If you wanted to get edamame alongside your meal, you had to pay for it if it was more than your 2 allocated courses. And so it just meant that it was quite tricky you just felt like you were really limited. It did not feel all inclusive. If you wanted to have dessert, you couldn't share an entree with your partner. It just felt really unnecessary at the time. So there was that. That was the rule. Having said that, the breakfast at Nusa Dua Beach was beautiful. They had someone making crepes, pancakes, and French toast freshly every morning. You could get it just popped on your plate, or you could choose from the buffet. They had this incredible grated coconut and brown sugar mixture that I had on crepes. Oh, 10 out of 10. They had a typical egg station, really delicious. They also had an orange juice, like juice your own orange station. So you would put the oranges in the top, turn the wheel, and fresh orange juice would come out. That was just mind blowing for the kids. We only spilt it once, so I think we did pretty well. There were epic pastries like real fresh butter. I know that sounds like a really token inclusion, but it just made everything better. The fruit was really tasty, nice options there. My kids loved that buffet breakfast. There was also a frozen yogurt section, and so they would scoop out. They alternated between mango and wild berry frozen yogurt plus a natural frozen yogurt. The kids just thought that was absolutely life changing. So 5 stars for the breakfast there. They did have an Indonesian restaurant, Raja's, which we ate at one night, which was quite fancy vibes. I really liked it. There was, a little amuse-bouche at the start, special kind of touches. I did find that, and this was common across the Nusa Dua Beach Hotel, that the food that was not included in the all-inclusive was often more than the food that was. And that hasn't been my experience in the past at other hotels. So in this example, there would have been a good 10 to 12 dishes that were not available for people on the all-inclusive menu. You could order them at a discount and pay for them, but I don't know, the principle of that just didn't feel right. The food we did have was really tasty, but I felt like I looked at a few things like, oh, I'd love that, and then no, you couldn't have it. In terms of the other rules, you could not also have lunch by the pool, so you couldn't order the kids' burger from the restaurant and have it by the pool. You had to have it at the restaurant next to the pool. Just a few things like that felt really specific. You couldn't order room service, so you couldn't have the exact same meal at the restaurant, but at the room, which when I've got kids, I really want to sometimes be able to have an early dinner for them. So that wasn't available at this hotel. The Asian restaurant Maguro had all sorts of Asian food. They had Balinese food, Japanese food, Chinese food, Thai food, all in one restaurant, but it was all consistently good. I really enjoyed the food that we had there. The pad Thai and the Balinese curry were excellent. Tamarind is their restaurant by the beach. So that's the one you might walk past on the boardwalk. We had a lot of lunches there because it was close to the pool. It was under the kind of the tree canopy. There were squirrels in the tree that you could watch. It was really quite nice food. I had a really nice chicken gyros, club sandwich kind of vibes. There was pasta. You could have a steak sandwich. Lots of options there. Again, like you could order a soda water, but you couldn't order a sparkling water on the all-inclusive menu. Just a few random things that just would have made a lot more sense to just be all included. Same, a coconut was like $4.50, but you couldn't get it on the all-inclusive menu, but you could get a glass of wine. It just did not make sense. We went to one of the like celebration nights. So they have a Balinese dance night, a fire twirling night, the kind of typical big hotel nights. There was a Bollywood night with an Indian buffet. And we were like, oh, look, the kids would probably like this on our last night. There's Indian dancing. The food was incredible. They had this little cart with these crackers. And originally I only got them because I was getting some dry crackers to put on my fussy 5-year-old's plate. And she made them up with this. I don't even know what it was. It was a cracker topped with I think it was potato, and I'm not a potato fan, but this was delicious. Potato and then like kind of a herbs and a sprinkled dried noodle with a spicy sauce and made this, oh, just incredible. So if you could go to the Bollywood night, I would recommend it. The rest of the buffet was also excellent. And that was out on the beach, which was quite windy, but It felt great. And the kids loved the Bollywood dancing. The first time they saw these people come out in the beautiful costumes and they're dancing around, just awestruck. They were asked to dance and they all burst into tears straight away. But then within a few minutes, we're out there dancing. So that was super fun for them to do. What else? The kids menu is available at all of the restaurants. You can also, for kids, order off the regular menu. The fish and chips, actually, at Tamarind, the kids ordered that several times, was delicious. I loved it, thought it was beautiful. The kids menu is the same though at all of the restaurants. So I guess that's actually helpful for some families. The kids also ordered things like tempura prawns or salmon nigiri at the Asian restaurant. So there was plenty of options for them in addition to the, chicken nuggets, hot dog kind of vibes. So that is the food. Overall, loved it. Did not love the rules about it. So actually, I might go into the Grand Hyatt and compare because then it probably makes it a bit more helpful for you. So we moved to the Grand Hyatt halfway through the holiday. The food there was also excellent. The breakfast was really delicious. There was a mango chia pudding with a coconut foam cream, like in a little cup that was just, my 8-year-old said to me, like, I do not like chia pudding, Mum, but this is the best. The pastries were top notch, the sourdough and the eggs, like really delicious breakfast. There were a couple of confusing things again here, in that you had to order eggs from your waiter. So if you didn't know that, you were kind of wandering around a little bit. And there were some like hidden things that you could order, things like hash browns, but you just didn't know that they were available. And like when they were good, they were good. Like the eggs, when they were cooked and served fresh, were beautiful. Often we found they were sitting on the kind of tray waiting to come out for a long time. But the quality of the food was actually great. That breakfast, oh, the same with the coffee. So you have to order a coffee from the waiter, and sometimes they would just get it from the, automatic machine, and sometimes they would make it at the barista. So you had to be quite clear about what sort of coffee you would like. But when you got what you wanted, it was very good. We dined twice at the Water Court Indonesian restaurant with just the adults. That was some of the best Indonesian food I have ever eaten. The service, the quality of the food, just 5 stars, chef's kiss, really delicious. Then a Japanese restaurant with a whole sashimi bar, which if you're not a Balinese, a regular Balinese traveler, well, not a Balinese traveler, but you're traveling to Bali, you might be like, sashimi, that raw fish does not sound like something that would be safe. In these settings, I really trust the safety of the food. Like if you are eating at the hotel in an all-inclusive package, they cannot afford for everybody to be getting sick. They are really on top of the food safety in this space. So we ate several kind of raw fish dishes. It was really tasty. Again, the service was lovely. The food by the pool, I thought was really good for what it was. Do you know, your typical kind of tacos. They had mahi mahi tacos, chicken sambo, some hot dogs, some pork bao, some, satays, just options that were really easy. And interestingly, there were no rules here about how much you could have or when you had it. And I just don't think we had that much more at the second hotel, but it just felt like it was there if you needed it. And that was much nicer. The drinks I didn't actually really mention at Nusa Dua Beach. I thought they were fine, good. Definitely way better than Grand Mirage. The whiskey sours, though, at Grand Hyatt, ooh, they were delicious. I ordered a number of those whiskey sours and really enjoyed them. Same rules again at the Grand Hyatt. You can't have room service. You can't have takeaway. You could order a pizza, but you had to eat it in the restaurant. You couldn't have it in a pizza box unless you paid for it, even though the pizza boxes were there. I don't understand, but okay. The kids really loved the spaghetti. They were really considerate with serving sauce on the side if that's what you wanted. The hot dog, the mini burger. In fact, I ordered several of the mini burger. They were great. They really enjoyed the brekkie. You could get a Magnum or a Cornetto from the freezer by the pool. And you didn't have to wait for that to be included in your meal. So that was helpful. They did eat at the buffet dinner once, and there was just not a lot for them there. So we didn't do that again. But overall, I thought the Grand Hyatt had great food. It was really available. There was plenty of it. I felt like the staff were really encouraging. Like, would you like any more? What else would you like to add? As opposed to the Nusa Dua Beach Hotel staff who were like, oh, that's your second course. You can't have anything more now unless you pay for it. So overall, both of them, I think, did really well. So let's talk about pools. The pool. Now, I hope I'm not getting confusing with where I'm at, but let's go back to the first part of the hotel, the Nusa Dua Beach Hotel, and I'll talk you through the pool there. This pool was so deep. It was so deep that we saw a man almost drown on the first day. Somebody had to dive in, rescue him. And he was like he was 1.8 meters tall probably, and he was like only just getting under the water. But there were points in that pool that you could do scuba diving lessons. Like it was wild. There were some shallow areas on the pool closest to the beach, and I thought that was really nice for kids. So, what I'm looking for when you've got kind of young kids is a part of the pool where it slopes in, and you can have a toddler or a 5-year-old or a 7-year-old playing in that area, still being in the pool, but not being like able to go under the water fully. It just means that you can sit on the edge and chat while they're playing without having to kind of hold them up all the time. So there was an area in the second pool that was kind of a beach style entry, so it was sandy, which some people like, some people don't. It was fine. And the kids could play there, and that was really nice. But the rest of the pool was so deep that adults couldn't stand. You couldn't play like the volleyball net there. Like even my husband's 6 foot something, and he could not comfortably stand and play water volleyball with the kids there. It was just way too deep. So that's surprising to me. I do think this might be a hotel that does a bit of a renovation soon because their pool was coming apart. There was a guy trying to glue tiles on while we were there in the pool, and yeah, they're starting to really come off. I didn't think there were enough sun lounges for the people that were staying at the hotel. Like it's a fairly big hotel, and there were not enough lounges for everyone to have a space. So you did feel that pressure to kind of get down there early, get a spot, claim, your space because you weren't confident that you were going to get somewhere to sit if you were too late. But the setting around the pool, the trees, the gardens, just gorgeous. Like we had some sun lounges under the big trees near the beach. There was a breeze. You were right on the pool. Just really nice vibes. The service around the pool was hit and miss. There was a bell that you could ring for them to come. They generally did come, but it took a little while. It was, Bali time, and that wasn't a real big bother for us. I thought at least they did come and we could have drinks around the pool, even if we weren't allowed to order food around the pool. It was very slippery though. My 5-year-old fell a number of times because the tiles were just so slippery. And walking back to the room, I really did feel like I was trying to grip with my toes and grip with my heels, and there was too much attention having to be paid to walking. As I said, this is a very detailed review of the hotel down to the tiles. So I hope that's helpful for you. They did have a basketball area. So there was like a very shallow pool with a basketball ring. Again, I think a sandy entrance, but it was probably only knee deep. And it was awesome for the kids to be able to play when we didn't want to be in the pool with them, but we could kind of watch them. They could still be splashing around, but they weren't in a pool that was, of risk. The other thing about the pool, the nice towels. Again, niche content, but I thought the towels were soft, nice to dry yourself with. It just felt nice around the pool. And so that was a real, I think, great point about Nusa Dua Beach Hotel. So let's move slightly down the road. We are going back to the Grand Hyatt now, and let's talk about the pool there. The biggest problem, I think, with the Grand Hyatt is that it is so big that the pool was incredibly far away from our room to the point that there are many stops for the golf buggy to pick people up to take them to the pool. Now, I thought that was a bit of a joke at first, but no. The first day at the Grand Hyatt, I did 17,000 steps just going to the pool and back. I was not going on a walk on the beach or a run or anything like that. I was literally just walking around the hotel. So that did make it tricky because I felt like if we were leaving the room for brekkie, we needed to be ready for the pool with all of our stuff because otherwise we would just not be coming, or we'd have to come back and it would take another half hour. And that, wasn't the vibe. But there are so many areas in that pool that made it really nice. Like I thought they'd really thought out the design of the pool. So there was a toddler area with a toddler pool that had kind of a little waterfall, wasn't too deep, was a special spot just for toddlers to play in. The toddler on our trip and my 5-year-old loved being in this pool, kind of entertaining each other. There was a step in it, though, that was the same color as the ground, which was really hard to see. There were many a toddler that slipped off that little step, but it wasn't super deep. But that was a nice space that I haven't really seen in other hotels. There was one at Nusa Dua Beach, but it was very plain, like just a small little pool. This felt nice. There was a big kind of pool with some different bridges going over a little spa section with kind of bubbles coming up that you could sit in a little lounge with bubbles in it. That was really nice at the Grand Hyatt. The rock pool area looks super cool. So there were big kind of boulders that you would swim through and under and around. It's probably too hard though if you've got younger kids who are not competent swimmers because you would need to be with them in all, you couldn't watch them from the side. You'd have to be constantly in and out and walking around because you couldn't see them from all areas. So that was, I mean, even if they were competent, I would not feel comfortable with my 8-year-old who is a strong swimmer being in any of those sections without me being able to see her. So looks great, probably less helpful for young kids. They had a big water slide though at the end of that area. That was fast and the kids loved it. So they had kind of these floats, or pool floats, what are they called? Like tubes that you would pick up that were floating around in the pool. You'd walk up the steps and you could just slide down. They had kind of lifeguard people on the top letting kids know when it was safe to slide and you would slide down. They let adults go on it. They let adults and kids go on it. It was fun. We spent an hour with that slide, kind of going up and down, up and down. There was another smaller water slide that you didn't use a tube for, but was just really slow, slow enough that the 5-year-old could take the 1-year-old down it because you hardly moved. So fun for young kids, probably not so much for the older kids. The depth was definitely better. You could stand as an adult in most of the pools easily. I did find probably the areas around the rock pool were about 1.3 meters, which for my 5-year-old, kind of just about maybe 1.2 meters high, she could really just reach, on her tippy toes, lifting her head out, but it wasn't a comfortable place to swim. I would have liked that be maybe a slight bit shallower, but I might be nitpicking here. They had a cold plunge and a jacuzzi area, which kids and adults could use. So it said that it was heated. The jacuzzi was 34 perhaps, and the cold plunge was 10 to 12. I put my Apple Watch in the cold plunge and it was only 20. So it was definitely cold, but I think 12 to 14 would have been a stretch. The kids adored going in the cold, then the hot, the cold, then the hot. So that was plenty of our days taken up just in that area. And the service by the pool was excellent. There were always people available to take your order, lots of options, all of the drinks kind of and food on the pool menu was included in the all-inclusive offering there. So that felt really nice. You could order a milkshake whenever you wanted it, a coconut whenever you wanted it, a sparkling or soda water whenever you wanted it. There was an area, there were plenty of sun lounges. We didn't have difficulty getting the sun lounges. On a couple of days, we did actually pay extra to have one of the cabanas because we had a group of 9. It was sometimes hard to have enough space for everybody. And if we wanted to kind of go and get a massage and come back, you need to pack up your towels. And it was trickier. With the cabana, you book it and you pay for access for the whole day. And it just meant that you get VIP service with the kind of pool bar stuff, but you also could just leave all your things. We often spent our quiet time there instead of in the room because it was such a hike to get back to the room that I'd be like, okay, we're going to pack all of our colouring or painting or drawing and sit in the cabana quietly. You could pull the kind of curtains across, block out the sun. Yeah, it was just a really nice feeling to do that. There was no pool bar in the pool, but there was a kind of building near the pool where you could sit at a table or you could order it to your sun lounge. And I thought that was fine. It was plenty. Again, lots of trees, really nice coverage. The feeling around the pool, we actually was lovely. We had ridden past Grand Hyatt and looking from the beach, I was like, oh, this looks quite average. It was not like that when you were in the actual hotel. So that was good. There were definitely not enough toilets, and this probably applies to Nusa Dua Beach Hotel as well. There were two kind of near the beach and two on the other side of the restaurant from where we were sitting around the pool. The number of times we had to walk to those toilets and wait was really frustrating. In the lobby, there's like 9 toilets. Who's using the toilet in the lobby? We need them by the pool. So I would love to see more toilets there. My husband's biggest upset was that there was no volleyball net in the pool. So do with that what you will. Overall, again, thought it was great. Let's go back to the rooms now. So if we're talking about the rooms, we are back at Nusa Dua Beach Hotel. We, in this room, had a king bed and a bunk bed, really spacious room, all Bali style, felt lovely. There was space for our suitcases. The wardrobes were big enough that everyone could have a drawer to pop their stuff in. The toilet in the room was actually in the bathroom itself. So that wasn't ideal. If you have anyone in your family who likes to sit on the toilet for a while, made it trickier to use the bathroom for everybody else. But the rest of the bathroom was nice. The shower head was lovely. We did have a kind of mini fridge. You could ask for it to be stocked with food, but that is all that you have to pay for the food. So we just left it and had our water in there, keeping it cold. We were on the third floor, so you could take the stairs or take the lift, but it wasn't a huge walk to the pool. I prefer to stay on the ground, so you just don't have to go up and down. But actually, it was totally fine in that hotel. Really clean rooms. The room service, sorry, the housekeeping was prompt. The rooms felt clean, nice. The sheets were nice. The bed was comfy. The bunk bed was very helpful for our kids. They loved it. Only minimal fights about who was going to be on the top and who was going to be on the bottom. So, tick, tick, tick. Going to the Grand Hyatt, as again, I told you that the room was a long way from anything else. It was definitely smaller than the Nusa Dua Beach Hotel. We had a king bed and in the same room a day bed. And when we walked in, I was like, this is not going to work. This day bed is a king single at best. There is no way my two kids are going to be able to sleep on this day bed together and not smother each other in the night with fury. But, when I did look back on the pictures of the day bed, it probably wasn't as obvious in the pictures, but it was the day bed that we had booked. So we couldn't get a rollaway bed apparently. So what we did is we actually turned the kids sideways. So we had cushions kind of on the end and the top of this day bed, and they slept across it rather than, the typical way that you would sleep on a bed. And that actually worked fine for us. I do think if we had kids who were bigger or older, that type of room would definitely not work for us. We would have had to get adjoining rooms there. So that's probably the last year we could do something like that, which does obviously significantly increase the price. The toilet did have a door off the bathroom, so that was a bonus for us at Grand Hyatt. There was heaps of free water available in the room, constantly kind of topped up. As I said, the buggy was an option for us, but there were just not enough buggies to take us where we wanted to go. Every time we did actually see a buggy taking people, it was either full or it was going the other way to where we were going. I really think Grand Hyatt could do with 5 buggies on constant rotation, constantly picking up people. There was often tears from our kids if they couldn't get onto the buggy. All of us maybe rode it once, apart from my husband, who seemed to have a personal buggy driver, and he went multiple times, but whatever. So yes, there was a lot of steps taken on those days. It felt like a real effort to go back to the room, but it wasn't a massive problem. Like over the time, I thought that it actually got a bit easier. I was less bothered by the space, just something to note. So, overall, I think from a hotel point of view, Grand Hyatt is much bigger, much more spread out, much more kind of developed than Nusa Dua Beach Hotel. So I guess it depends on the kind of vibe that you're looking for. I thought both of them felt nice. Okay, so now onto the amenities and the stuff for the kids. Both the hotels had different options. So there were bikes at Nusa Dua Beach that you had to pay for, but unfortunately they were in quite poor quality. It was tricky to ride. We had to stop at a second hotel and get one of the tires pumped up. We paid maybe $7 or $8 each to go on the bike for an hour. They had a canoe, which we booked as well. Um, that was a lot of effort, kind of trying to paddle out on the ocean. It was much rougher than we had expected. I probably wouldn't bother with that, but the kids liked it. They also did have down at the spa centre, which wasn't for children, was for adults, a paddleball and a pickleball court, of which I've never played either. But we hired that out and they let us have the older kids there as long as they were well behaved, which fine. That was really fun. You did have to pay quite a lot. I think it was like $80 for an hour of that. But we had, 6 or 7 people playing, rotating through. I think I might take up paddleball in Perth actually because it was really fun. There was kind of a golf simulator, a basketball area, a sauna, a plunge, those things you had to pay for near the spa. At the Nusa Dua Beach Hotel, we did have a massage included as part of our deal. It was fine. It was a bit of a wipe down, really. Not my kind of massage. And the spa probably wasn't somewhere I would go back to there. Quite expensive and just not that nice. The kids club, again, kind of overrated, really. My kids did not spend any time in there. They spent a little bit of time in the kind of climbing playground. But when we were looking at the activities, everything required a payment. If they were making a money box, they had to pay for it. If they were doing bracelet making, they had to pay for it. And it just kind of felt like it was quite small, maybe targeted to kind of younger kids. It wasn't obvious what you could do there. There was a movie night, but not all of our kids would agree on the movie. So I didn't rate the kids club there. If you had kind of more toddlers, they might be more interested in that space, but overall at Nusa Dua Beach Hotel, not something I would go for. They did have a couple of things like the soccer goals that were down by one of the restaurants. Very hot in the day, but one of our evening meals, the kids went down and played soccer there while they were waiting for food. So there was definitely lots to do within the hotel on top of just your regular swimming, hanging out, playing kind of things that we would do normally. When we moved to the Grand Hyatt, obviously is a much bigger hotel. There was a lot more options. I don't know that that's necessarily the best or something that you need. My kids would be very happy to swim, play in the pool, play, a game of go fish, potter around, go out to the beach, come back. They don't need a lot of things, but when there were things there, we did do it. So the slides they loved. The slides at Grand Hyatt were really fun. Trying to catch a buggy was fun when you could do it. They had an included foot massage with the Luxury Escapes deal. And the spa at Grand Hyatt was really lovely. Like we sat in these beautiful kind of reclining chairs, gorgeous gardens and waterways, and you were kind of just out in nature having this foot massage. It felt, beautiful. So I would definitely do that again if it was included. They had a karaoke room, which you had to pay for. And we've never done karaoke, but I think my family might be taking that up as a hobby. Perhaps not my husband. He rolled his eyes through the whole thing, but the girls adored karaoke. So we had a little room. It cost, I think it was about $50 for the hour. You could get drinks and snacks in there, and you could just choose your own songs. You had 2 microphones, kind of in this little booth. It was fun. We had a really nice time doing that. That was in the sports bar, so they had a derby playing, which as an Eagles supporter was not something that I enjoyed, so I didn't bother with that. But they also had like a pinball machine, a foosball machine. The kids popped in there when my husband went in, and they had a good time. So that was nice. The kids club. So there was a toddler club, which, as I said, we were traveling with a toddler. That was like toddler heaven. There were steps, there was soft play, there was a little slide, there were blocks, things to climb over, really tailored to kind of those 1 to 2 year olds who would really love that. There was also a kids club that was much bigger. Now, I'm probably not best to comment on the kids club because even though we intended to go all the time, we actually just never went. I know that there is a 2 hour limit. You can't leave your kids in there longer. My kids 100% would not stay in a kids club for longer than that. So that wasn't a bother to me. We didn't even get in the door. But they also had a foosball and air hockey. They had more games that you could play, more activities, kind of bracelet making and the folding leaves and, crafts and art and that kind of stuff. So it looked fun, but I can't really comment on how well it went. The only problem is if you did have a nanny, they wouldn't allow other external nannies to go in. So that made it tricky because also my kids will not go into a place like that without another adult, me or a nanny. So yeah, that wouldn't have been super helpful. For the adults, there was a couple of extra places to have a drink. They had a veranda kind of bar at the front near the lobby, which looked out from high up across kind of the waterways that they have set up in the hotel and the beach. That felt really nice. There's a rooftop bar where you can go and sit and kind of watch, well, not the sunset because we're on the wrong side of the island, but you could watch the sunrise if you wanted to, or you could just, watch the day ending. They had markets within the hotel, and they also had like a shopping area and a bank and a money changer and all these kind of things if you needed them. We didn't need them, but it was nice that they were there. So a lot more kind of options. I thought that Grand Hyatt did a really great job of like we could split our bill, we'd lost a bag and we could just message them and they found it. You could book the restaurants in the lobby. You could do that at both hotels actually, and I would highly encourage that because sometimes they do book out within the hotels, which is wild to me. But you almost want to get there and lock in your plans for where you're going to dine. Otherwise, it feels like you do have the potential to miss out at both of the places. Okay, the next kind of topic is the relaxedness and the all-inclusiveness. So if we go back to Noosa Dua Beach Hotel, I just thought the vibe was beautiful. It felt nice. There was very little thinking required. We had enough service, enough space. It didn't feel rushed or busy. There was a lot of just room to spend time with each other and do nice things, and it felt enjoyable. I did find that the all-inclusive nature of it was absolutely not all-inclusive. For example, like if the kids went to watch the movie, they had to pay $5 each for popcorn. And I just think like that was such a just unnecessary extra charge. The same, I was talking about if you wanted to order a side of rice or a side of chips, you had to pay for them. We took a game of cards with the adults into the lobby bar after a meal because it was quite windy down at the beach. So we've taken 5 crowns. If you haven't played it, highly recommend. But at the lobby bar, you couldn't get a cocktail, not included. So you could get like a beer, but you couldn't get a cocktail. It just felt like there were a few too many rules that felt less luxurious. And I just don't think it's probably in the hotel's best interest. And maybe they're governed by luxury escapes or whatever it is. But I just think there could have been the amount extra that we would have wanted to feel really luxurious was not a lot. So that's the overall feeling at Noosa Dua Beach Hotel. It definitely exceeded my expectations. At the Grand Hyatt, apart from all the walking, I got what I wanted. I felt relaxed. I felt like I didn't have to make a lot of decisions. Things were easy. They were much better at the all-inclusive nature. So we actually did choose to pay for extra things. We paid for a cabana, we paid for the karaoke, we paid for the meals for our nanny. They weren't included, but it felt like we were taken care of. It felt special. And so I would give that also a big tip. A big tip, a big tick. I did give a tip to some people, but that is unrelated. Generally speaking, I thought both of these hotels are lovely places to stay. With Noosa Dua Beach Hotel, we did have a bigger group, so we had sometimes 12 people, and the service was a bit tricky. It wasn't a big worry, I don't think. But for example, like my main course was served and my dad's dessert was served at the same time because he had two courses, one including a dessert and I had one including an entree. And so they were just kind of sent out all together. Or there were times when some of us had fully eaten and others hadn't got the meal. So I think that's a challenge with a restaurant, in a hotel sometimes. It wasn't a big problem, but that did kind of get a little bit frustrating at times. Overall, though, for the price, and Nusa Dua Beach Hotel was cheaper, depends obviously on the deal that you get, but I thought that was a really reasonably priced hotel with some really nice inclusions, beautiful breakfast, lovely kind of gardens and pool area, and a nice room. So overall, I would recommend. The Grand Hyatt, apart from having to walk everywhere, which I really do sound like a sloth on holidays, and that is quite true. I don't want to do a lot of anything on a holiday. So it was fun trying to get the buggy, a little frustrating that there wasn't. We had a nice time spotting these giant lizards, water monitors at the hotel, which that sounds scary, but it wasn't. They were really fun to look for. And the service was excellent across almost all of the restaurants. We were blown away by the service at the Grand Hyatt. The food was lovely. The pool area was lovely. I would also really recommend this hotel. Again, when I first got there, I thought, nah, this is too big. I'm not going to like it. But actually, I really did enjoy it. So overall, loved both of them. Would stay again. Highly recommend over Grand Mirage. Cheaper, both of them, I believe, and just a million times nicer. Which brings me to Melia. So Nusa Dua Beach Hotel is just to the side of Melia, and Grand Mirage is just to the other side. Sorry, Grand Hyatt. Oh, I thought I was going to stuff that up and I hadn't already. But Grand Hyatt is just to the other side of Melia. It is now called Paradisus by Melia. We went through, we had friends staying there. Oh my goodness, it looks beautiful. Every person that I've recommended stay there that has kind of then messaged me afterwards has been like, this is the best. And so I would love to be going back there next year. They have a new kids' water playground with kind of slides and sprays and, tipping bucket kind of vibes. It was awesome. There is a pool bar kind of near that area. You can order food and drinks. It is just the kids played there. It was so fun. It was really, the pools are beautiful, really like some shallow areas, some deeper areas, fun, nice, plenty of sun lounges, nice towels. The new restaurants that they've added just look stunning. The food that I saw, I didn't eat there because you weren't allowed to, but the food that was there just looked really incredible. The drinks, I did have one of those. They were great. They had signature drinks at different bars. Oh, Amelia, let's talk. If you want me to stay there and do a proper review, please get in touch because that is, I think, one of the things I loved about Mealy was their all-inclusive nature. Like even their mini bar is included. You just don't have to worry about anything. And I think I would really like to stay there again in the future. So, what else do I want to tell you about with Bali? I'll give you my kids' thoughts. So, my 5-year-old liked the Grand Hyatt better, but she preferred the restaurants at the Nusa Dua Beach Hotel because they had a squirrel tree, which basically means a tree that squirrels ran around in. So, she thought that that really gave it the upper edge. That was probably one of my least favorite parts of that restaurant, but each their own. My 8-year-old told me that she liked them both. She apparently didn't like the vibe of the pool tiles against the sun lounges at the Grand Hyatt. I did not have a problem with the color of the pool tiles and the color of the sun lounges, but yeah, I think she's clutching at straws. They loved both of the hotels, so I would highly recommend both of them. In terms of other activities for the kids, we were quite happy to spend time just in the hotel and really leave as little as possible. We did go to Waterbomb Park though. Haven't been for a couple of years. We had a great day out, so I would really encourage booking ahead. The day that we went had sold out online almost a week in advance, so we were lucky to have got our tickets. There are some walk-in tickets available, but you have to be there by 8:30 minimum. It opens at 9 o'clock to get in the queue to get a ticket. It's risky. We got a GoJet car. We just booked using the app. It cost us less than $5 really to get there. I would suggest getting there for opening. We probably got there about 8:30. We waited for a while out the front, but we could get a sun lounge area. We could go on all the slides before they got busy. They have renovated a lot of this Waterbomb Park, and it is so much better. The kids area has multiple different spaces. My kids adored it. They have been much more adventurous with water slides since we went to Wet and Wild actually. And so we did go on some of the bigger slides. We went on the Python, we went on the Tailspin, went on the Drop. My youngest was too small for a couple of those, which is frustrating, but really good. We only really queued for one ride, about 45 minutes for the Python later on in the day. But if you go early or late, the queues, even on a packed out maximum capacity day, were not wild. I thought the food was very tasty and varied. There were some big signs for freak shakes, so a milkshake with a donut and a whipped cream and a popcorn and a whatever. My kids were like absolutely gunning for that. So we did get those. I mean, $7.50. I thought they were actually pretty reasonably priced for what they were. Waterbomb did a beautiful job. Everything was organized. You've got your money on your wristband. You can get your pool towels. You can get your lounges. You can top up your value. You can order your drinks. They'll deliver it wherever. Really, the photos were organized. The whole process was really slick. So for a day out, if your kids enjoy a water park, that was absolutely worth doing. We the kids had their first massage, which I was a little unsure about. I sat in the room while they had it. It was just a half hour. The reason I actually said yes to it was because they probably both needed a day sleep on that day. They were kind of waking up early, going to bed later, and I thought we probably need a little bit of a rest to just get us through from a behavior point of view. And oh my gosh, they adored it. They were just so relaxed. We actually went to Bali Karma Spa, which they offered a pickup service. It was $10 for them. They picked us up from the hotel, gave the massage while I was sitting in there. They were just really sweet, and they really loved it. So I fear I may have given into that for the rest of time. We did get braids done. That was actually organised by a friend, an external company that came to the room. I swear, when we've got braids done for the girls, we've just done the Bali braids, like the kind of cornrows with the beads on the end previously, mostly so that we do not have to brush or wash hair while we're there. We rinse it out and then we're just not fighting with brushing their hair. And in previous times, it's been about $25. The pricing for braiding was up at the $60, $70 mark where we were staying and around us. And that just felt wild for what it was going to be. So we ended up doing it in conjunction with a couple of friends, and they had organized two girls who came to the room who were so speedy. They were so fast. My 8-year-old talked me into the colored hair, which I get it, but I just don't like it. So I had been against it for a very long time. But she got me at a weak moment and I said yes. But it's actually lasted really well. So it meant that we didn't have to deal with their hair at Waterbomb afterwards at all. So I'm all for it. I would recommend that, and I can find out the name of that if you're interested. You can absolutely do things. We looked at day trips, downhill bike riding, snorkeling. To be honest, we couldn't be bothered. We were there for 12 days and there was well and truly enough in the hotel for us to do. And as I said at the start of the episode, that is my vibe. Like, I do not want to be organizing, getting up early, packing the kids up, doing the things, taking the food. I just want to be chilling out. So that worked for us. My sister took her family out into kind of Legian and did some shopping and some markets and some bits and pieces, which they wanted to do. I couldn't be bothered. I didn't do that. But I guess it really depends on your family. So there are lots of options. We just didn't. And the final part of this long and very detailed bonus episode is about our nanny. So we have used the same nanny, are you, for since 2019. So when my oldest was one, and my oldest would go to nobody, and she still went to nobody when we had you for the first time. But this woman, oh, I cannot speak more highly of her. She is just the most genuine, warm, kind, caring, trustworthy person. She has come for all of our holidays, so we get her in the afternoon from about 3 o'clock till about 9 o'clock. She comes and just joins the family and like helps out with, if one of the kids wants to go and play on the sand at the beach, she'll take them down there. Or if somebody needs to go, they want to play a game of go fish, she'll play with the couple that want to play. She was in charge of 4 kids all the time that she was with us. So either my 2 kids and my 2 nephews, or my 2 kids and our 2 friends. And we paid her $15 an hour for 4 kids. It's cheaper if there are less kids. But she joined us in karaoke. She took the kids, when we didn't want to go to the buffet, she took the kids to the buffet. She brings all sorts of activities. And even my like nephews who are not super sit down and craft kind of kids, they made bracelets with her, fans with her. They just had the best time. She's so thoughtful. Like I put the chargers when we're getting ready kind of in the afternoon. I put the chargers for the toothbrushes into the power outlet, and I was looking for her for the toothbrushes, and she's just there with them ready to help. She hung out all the wet clothes when we got back to the room. She did the kids' aqua ear without us asking. Like it was just, she's so thoughtful and helpful. And so what we would generally do, she'd be there for the first part. She would either take the kids for dinner if they wanted to have a kids only dinner, or if we were having a bigger dinner where everyone was eating together, while we were waiting for the meals, she would take them down to play soccer, or she'd set up colouring, or she'd set up, a race for them that they would do. So we got to kind of be with them, but still enjoy our own drink or our own meal without having to negotiate amongst the parents who kind of took the kids for a walk. So that was really helpful. And then if the kids went early and we went out for dinner afterwards, she would sit in the room with them while they slept. And then we could come back when we were done with the adult dinner, which just sounds, it sounds as good as it was. It honestly was amazing. We've obviously known her for a number of years. I've recommended her so highly to so many people. It's just such a great way to still have the family time, but also just not get resentful of, being on holidays with kids, because I absolutely do. So, and my 5-year-old does not like many people, but she made this beautiful card for RU, to take over to Bali. She cried at the airport thinking about not seeing her again for a while. Even my brother-in-law was actually quite nervous about having someone. Totally understandable. He's never met her before. He doesn't know, what she's like. And honestly, by day 3, he was just like, oh, this woman is a dream. She's so good with the kids. She's not pushy or kind of in their face, but just, a really great way to make the holiday even better. I will highly recommend her to anybody that I speak to. I know that work is tricky in Bali for them, having consistent income. So if you're interested in using her, I will pop her details either in the show notes, or you can send me a message. I'll make a note of that so that it's really clear. So that is one of my favorite parts. And what would I do next time? Honestly, I would quite happily stay at either of these hotels again. I would also love to stay at Melia. I think Nusa Dua Beach, just generally that kind of area, is where we're going to be at for the next few years if we continue to go, because it's just such a nice break. I would take more sticker crafts for my 5-year-old. She was getting a bit frustrated with colouring or writing because she's not kind of fully at that stage yet. So I took one sticker craft and she absolutely smashed that on day 1. So I would do that. I would also take more cups and teapots, probably the silicone ones to have by the pool. They always are a success. And this year I just couldn't find our set. I only had a few cups and it just wasn't enough. But otherwise, I don't think I would do anything differently. We really enjoyed our time. I hope you have enjoyed my very detailed, very specific review of these hotels and the holiday. I would love to hear your feedback. Tell me what you think. Do you want even more details? What am I missing? Tell me. Thanks for being here. And hopefully, Amelia, reach out anytime. Bye.
A huge thanks for tuning in and listening to my podcast. This is all brand new for me, so I'd love to hear your feedback. Give me a review or send me a DM. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And above all, I'd really love you to hit that subscribe button to keep listening. Thanks.